To get the latest, our Ukraine correspondent, Gulliver Cragg, joins me now from the capital, Kyiv. Gulliver, first of all, what can you tell us then about what is happening around Kherson?
Well, fighting on the southern front, where the Ukrainian forces are trying to recapture Kherson Oblast, Kherson region, most of which is still Russian occupied, has been much tougher for the Ukrainians than the northeastern front, where they were able to take a huge swathe of territory in Kharkiv region very quickly. But now the Ukrainians are beginning to go public about some successes. If you look at the various maps that there are available on the internet showing the areas that have been reclaimed by Ukraine all along the Kherson front line, now there is a sort of strip of blue. Most of them present the retaken territories in blue. These are mostly rural areas with no major towns, but the Ukrainians have been noting the names of some settlements that they have taken. Myrolyubivka and Arhangelske, two villages in the northern part of Kherson region, are the latest to be confirmed. But a Ukrainian military spokesman for the southern operations told me just now that it's still very much too dangerous for journalists to visit any of these places that have recently been liberated because, as she said, they're under constant shelling. So the situation is far from stable. But what we also know from various military bloggers, journalists, numerous sources, is that in reality the Ukrainian advances in Kherson region are much more significant than what they are at the moment prepared to confirm publicly because of the instability of the situation. But it looks as though the Ukrainians are trying to advance not only from the north towards the northern part of Kherson region, but also along the right bank of the Dnieper River, which cuts across Kherson region, which means that they may sooner or later be able to trap at least some of the Russian soldiers who are on that right bank of the river. They've already, I remind you, made their logistics extremely difficult by destroying the bridges that cross the river.
Meanwhile, Gulliver, as I said earlier, the Ukrainians over the weekend retook Liman. This is in the northeast of the country. It is a place of particular symbolic and strategic importance. Tell us a bit about why.
Yes, symbolic and strategic. Symbolic, firstly, because it's the first major town that the Ukrainian armed forces were able to liberate after Vladimir Putin had announced that Russia was annexing all of those territories. So in a sense, it's the first town that Russia considers to be part of Russia. Though, of course, the rest of the world absolutely does not consider it to be part of Russia, that the Ukrainians have retaken. And the Russian response to it has been somewhat vague. They've been talking about the borders, actually, of the regions that they've annexed not yet being defined, making these kinds of excuses, saying that they actually just redeployed their soldiers to more advantageous positions. But we see already that Ukrainian armed forces are pushing beyond Liman to the north and east. And that's why this town is of such strategic as well as symbolic significance, because it's on the northern bank of the Siversky Donetsk River. It's a major logistics hub, major rail and road junction. And so it really makes it much, much easier for the Ukrainian armed forces now to push further northeast into Luhansk region, where the next really big targets for the Ukrainian army to try to liberate are the towns of the Severodonetsk urban area, Severodonetsk itself, Lysychansk, Rubizhne, towns that suffered terrible, terrible damage during the Russian offensive to take them in the early summer.
Gulliver Cragg in Kyiv. Thanks very much indeed.